"You're a leech!" Sophie screamed at me, her words cutting through the rain, leaving me standing there shattered, holding on to nothing but my suitcase. You know there are moments in life that you never see coming, moments that hit you so unexpectedly they take your breath away. But for me, the most crushing moment of all came at the hands of someone I had always loved with all my heart, my own daughter. I remember the day Sophie won the lottery like it was yesterday. It was a huge win, $10 million. I never expected it to change everything. Honestly, I didn't think it would change anything. After all, we had our routine, we had our life, our little home, and most importantly, each other. Sophie had always been my rock, and I was hers. We'd struggled together, lived through tough times together, laughed and cried together. The lottery ticket, it was just a silly hope, a little dream we shared. It was never meant to be anything serious. But then overnight, everything turned upside down. When Sophie hit the jackpot, I thought she would share the joy, the excitement that we'd finally be able to live without worry. Instead, I found myself standing outside in the rain, clutching my suitcase. Sophie had turned on me. The same girl I had raised, the one who used to call me her best friend, her anchor. She was now telling me to leave. "You're a leech!" she screamed, her words cutting through the air like shards of glass. "I worked hard for this. You don't deserve any of this money, not a dime." There she was standing in front of me with her new boyfriend by her side, both of them smirking as though they had won some prize. They didn't even look at me with a shred of empathy. I stood there wet and cold, and yet somehow numb. The rain soaked through my sweater, mingling with the tears I refused to let fall. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just stood there, silent, because I knew deep down that I was stronger than what she was trying to do to me. It didn't matter that I had sacrificed so much for her. It didn't matter that I had given up my own dreams to raise her to ensure she had a better life. All that mattered now was her new life, and I was no longer part of it. It's strange how life can shift in a moment, as though the ground beneath your feet suddenly cracks and splits, leaving you hanging by a thread. That's what it felt like when Sophie looked at me, her eyes cold, detached, and told me to leave. After everything we had shared, everything I had sacrificed, this was how it ended. Sophie was no longer the girl I had raised. She had changed, and I was too blind to see it until it was too late. Once the money hit her bank account, it was like a switch flipped. The girl who once clung to me for comfort, who once ran to me when she needed advice or guidance, had vanished. In her place stood someone unrecognizable, someone who no longer saw me as family, but as a burden. When she told me to leave, there was no hint of remorse in her voice, no flicker of hesitation. It was as if I had become an inconvenience in her new life, an unwanted presence that didn't fit into the shiny, glamorous world she was now part of. "You need to go now," she demanded, her voice sharp and dismissive. I could see the new boyfriend standing beside her, arms crossed, smirking as if he were watching a show. He looked young, barely older than Sophie's son, and yet he stood there with a sense of superiority, as though he too was part of this new life that I no longer belonged in. "Sophie, please," I began, my voice shaking slightly, but I refused to break. I wasn't going to beg. I had done that too many times already. "No, Mom, you're done here," she snapped. "You've overstayed your welcome, and if you don't leave, I'll call the police." Her words were sharp, each one a stab to my heart, cutting through the years of love and sacrifice I had poured into her. It was surreal. Here I was, the woman who had raised her from the moment she was born, the woman who had wiped away her tears, during heartbreaks held her hand through rough times, and fought for her future. And now she was telling me I wasn't welcome in her life anymore. As I stood there stunned and frozen by her words, my suitcase packed with a lifetime of memories slipped from my hand and fell to the ground. In an instant, the contents spilled out, scattering across the cold, wet driveway. My clothes, some old family items, the blouse I used to wear when I babysat her children, all of it spilled out into the dirt. The sound of it hitting the pavement was like a physical blow, a symbol of everything I had been to her reduced to nothing. My toothbrush rolled into the gutter like it knew it no longer had a place. There in the pouring rain, I stood watching my life spill out in front of me. Those were my memories, my efforts, my love, and yet to Sophie they were just things that no longer had value. The rain mixed with the dirt on my shoes, the rain now soaking me through, but I didn't care. The ground beneath me felt hollow, just like the way I was beginning to feel inside. Sophie didn't flinch. She didn't even look at me as I bent down to pick up my belongings. Her eyes were focused elsewhere on her new life, on the man who now held her attention and affection. The boy stood beside her, arms crossed as if he were watching a person being removed from a stage. No emotion, no empathy. It was in that moment that I realized I wasn't just being kicked out. I was being erased. All the years of raising her, of being her mother, meant nothing now. In her eyes, I was nothing more than a burden, someone who had outlived her usefulness. She had her new life now filled with money, luxury, and freedom, and I had become nothing but a stain on it. As I picked up the last of my things from the dirt, I felt my heart break, but I didn't cry. Not then. I couldn't. Because I knew that if I let myself break in front of her, I would never be able to put the pieces back together. I stood there holding my suitcase, my heart heavy, but my resolve growing stronger. She thought I would crawl back to her. She thought I would beg for her forgiveness. Or worse, beg for a place in her new world. But she had made one mistake, a small one that would cost her everything. She didn't check the name on the lottery ticket. It's funny how a sudden shift in fortune can change everything. One moment everything feels grounded, secure, and familiar. The next it's all upended in an instant. That's what happened after Sophie won the lottery. Suddenly, the woman who had been my closest confidant, the one who relied on me through thick and thin, became a stranger to me. For years, Sophie and I were inseparable. I had been there for every moment of her life. When she struggled, I was there to help pick up the pieces. I watched her go through bad relationships, career changes, and personal struggles, and I was always by her side. When things got tough, Sophie leaned on me. I supported her emotionally and often financially, covering bills when she was between jobs or helping with childcare when she couldn't juggle everything. I never minded. It was my job as her mother. I loved her deeply and unconditionally. But the moment the lottery check cleared, when that $10 million entered her bank account, something inside Sophie changed. It was like I no longer mattered. The woman who once said I was her rock, the one who promised we would take that money and live a better life together, suddenly didn't have time for me anymore. Sophie's eyes, which once held so much warmth for me, now held a cold, calculated indifference. She started distancing herself, her visits becoming fewer, her calls more short. The girl who would sit on the couch with me for hours talking about everything and nothing was now too busy. Too busy for me, for the woman who had given up her own dreams to raise her, for the woman who had been there when no one else was. I could feel the shift, but I couldn't quite put it into words at first. Maybe it was the way she avoided my gaze when we spoke, or how she didn't care to check in as she once had. I didn't want to admit it, but deep down, I knew what was happening. Sophie had money now, and in her mind, that meant she didn't need me anymore. I had become a reminder of the old life, the struggles, the tight budgets, the sacrifices, and that wasn't part of her new world. She wanted to leave all that behind. Then came the moment that truly confirmed my suspicions. I had always told Sophie that if we ever won the lottery, we'd share it. We talked about buying a new house, maybe even a duplex, where I could live nearby and help with the kids. I had sacrificed so much for her, and in return, I believed she would honor those promises. But that wasn't what happened. Not even close. Sophie had made a promise to me one she never even considered breaking. She said if we ever hit it big, we'd share everything. She said, "I got you, Mom. We'll do this together." Those words echoed in my mind for so long, keeping me hopeful, keeping me believing that no matter how hard life got, Sophie would never turn her back on me. But when she stood in front of me, telling me I had no right to a penny, of the $10 million, I realized the truth. It wasn't just a betrayal of money, it was a betrayal of the love and trust we had built over the years. Sophie didn't just cast me aside as a financial burden, she cast aside everything we had been to each other. All those years of sacrifice, of supporting her dreams, meant nothing to her now. I wasn't her rock anymore. I was just an obstacle. And that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the ticket. The very ticket that made this whole mess happen. Sophie never bought it. No, I did. I remember it so clearly the day I stood in line at the gas station minding my business, picking up some milk, and hearing the clerk ask if I wanted a lottery ticket. I said, "Sure, why not?" It was just a quick pick, nothing special. Just another one of those little hopes we shared, Sophie and me. I pinned it to the fridge, a simple act, and forgot about it. Sophie never seemed interested in the lottery before, but something changed. The next morning, the ticket was gone. I didn't think much of it at first. But as the days went by, Sophie's behavior began to shift. I never asked her directly about the ticket. I wanted to believe in her, to believe that she hadn't taken it. But deep down, I knew. When she came to me weeks later, clutching a check for $10 million and claiming to have won, I couldn't believe my ears. I knew something was wrong. I knew it wasn't her ticket, but she didn't even bother to check. She took it, the one thing that meant everything to me, and ran with it. Sophie had taken what wasn't hers, and just like that, our bond, our trust was shattered. I didn't know how deep this betrayal ran, but I knew one thing for sure. Sophie had just started a chain of events she couldn't undo. There are some things that become rituals, small, everyday traditions, that over time become a comforting part of your life. For Sophie and me, one of those rituals was buying lottery tickets. It wasn't about expecting to win or dreaming of riches. It was about hope, about believing that maybe, just maybe, life could be a little different. It wasn't something we took too seriously, but it was ours. Every week without fail, we'd stop by the gas station, grab a couple of tickets, and laugh about what we'd do if we ever won. We would make jokes about what kind of house we'd buy, how we'd travel the world, and what luxury items we'd splurge on. Sophie used to say, "If we hit the jackpot, I'll take you to Paris, Mom. You deserve it." I'd laugh and say, "Maybe I'll finally get that porch swing I've always talked about." It was never about the money, but the possibility, the dream. It wasn't much, but it was something to look forward to. We never expected to win, no one does, but we always said that if we did, we'd share it. It was a promise, something Sophie had always said, with a smile that made my heart swell with hope. She always said, if we win, it's ours together. But when that moment finally came, when Sophie actually won $10 million, everything changed. The dream was shattered, the promise broken, our ticket was gone. I didn't realize it at first. I didn't question Sophie's behavior right away. We had been so busy with life, and I hadn't really thought much about the ticket in the days leading up to the win. It was just another slip of paper, another part of our shared ritual. But something was different. When Sophie told me she'd won, her eyes were filled with excitement. She was holding the check in her hand like a trophy, and she couldn't stop smiling. I could see the shift in her, how the excitement in her eyes had turned into something sharper, something more calculating. She said, "I won, Mom. I actually won. $10 million. She was ecstatic, but as I looked at her, I didn't see the girl who had sat beside me for years dreaming together. No, this was someone else. At that moment, I should have known. I should have asked her right then and there where the ticket came from, but I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe in her. I wanted to believe that despite everything that was changing, she was still the same girl who had promised we would do it together. But the truth began to sink in slowly. I started thinking back to the day I bought the ticket. It was just a regular trip to the gas station. I wasn't thinking about the lottery in any serious way. I just thought, why not? It was a whim, and I remember clearly how I stuck that ticket on the fridge. When I got home, the way Sophie had smiled and said, "Good luck, Mom," before heading off to her room. A few days passed, and then one morning the ticket was gone. I didn't question it at first. Maybe I misplaced it, I thought. Or maybe Sophie had taken it herself, not thinking much of it. But I noticed a strange shift in her. She wasn't acting like herself, distant, more secretive. She started buying new things, expensive things, without telling me. Shoes, clothes, a new purse. The signs were all there, but I didn't want to see them. Then one evening, Sophie came to me holding the check. She was grinning from ear to ear, her voice shaking with excitement. "Mom, I won. Can you believe it? $10 million. I'm rich." But something in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. That was when the knot in my stomach tightened. That was when I knew. I went to the fridge just to check, but the ticket was gone. Sophie had taken it. She had stolen it right from under my nose without ever saying a word. She had taken what was ours, what was mine. The promise we made to each other gone. Just like that. She never mentioned it. Not once. And in that moment, I realized how deeply she had changed. Sophie, my daughter, was no longer the girl who used to sit on the couch and dream with me. She was someone else now, someone who saw me as a burden, someone who would take what wasn't hers without a second thought. That's when the betrayal hit me. Not just because she took the ticket, but because she had taken our dream, our tradition, our shared hope, and used it to build a life without me in it. The truth has a way of creeping up on you when you least expect it. I suppose I had been in denial for a while, trying to hold on to the hope that Sophie hadn't really changed, that everything would go back to the way it was. But deep down, I felt the growing distance, the subtle shifts in her behavior. And then came the moment when I could no longer ignore it. Sophie had come home that day, clutching the check like a prized possession, grinning from ear to ear. "I did it." "Mom, I won. Can you believe it? 10 million, her voice was filled with excitement. Genuine excitement, I thought, at first. She jumped up and down, showing me the check, like it was the key to a new life. But something about the way she was acting didn't sit right with me. Sophie had never been the type to get that excited about the lottery. She wasn't someone who spent her evenings dreaming about what she'd do if she ever won. It was just something we did together for fun, for a brief moment of hope. But Sophie had never seemed to care about it as much as I did. As I watched her, something inside me tightened. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Sophie had always been honest with me, or at least I thought she was. But now, as I looked at her wide grin, her eyes shining with a victory I couldn't understand, I began to wonder, did she really win? Or was there more to this story than she was telling me? Her excitement was so sudden, so intense, that it made me suspicious. She hadn't even mentioned the lottery in the days leading up to this moment. She wasn't the kind of person to talk about our little ticket-buying ritual. It was always just something we did casually with no real expectation. But now here she was, holding up this check, claiming it as her own. And that's when the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't help myself. I had to know. I walked into the kitchen, my mind racing. The fridge stood there, the familiar spot where we'd always stick our tickets, our little hopes up on the magnet. I opened the door and froze. It was empty. The spot where the lottery ticket had been was bare. I felt my stomach drop. Sophie had always known about the ticket on the fridge. It was part of our ritual. But now the place where it used to sit was as empty as my heart felt in that moment. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't even about the lottery. It was about trust. Sophie had taken what was mine. She had taken our dream, the one we had shared, and made it her own. She had stolen that ticket without saying a word, without a hint of acknowledgement. And now she was standing there holding a check that wasn't really hers. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. The betrayal was so deep, so painful, that I felt paralyzed. "Mom, you okay?" Sophie's voice broke through my thoughts. She was still grinning, still excited, but I could barely hear her over the pounding in my chest. "Where did you get that ticket, Sophie?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She paused, her eyes darting away for a split second. "What do you mean I bought it, Mom? I won it? Don't you get it? We're rich? but I wasn't buying it anymore. The truth was right in front of me, and I couldn't pretend anymore. I had been the one who bought the ticket. I had been the one who walked into that gas station on a whim, grabbed a quick pic, and stuck it on the fridge. I had told Sophie about it casually without thinking, but she had taken my hope, my promise, and made it her own. In that moment, I realized how deep the lie went. Sophie hadn't just taken the ticket, she had taken everything. She had stolen the years of love and sacrifice, the promises made in the quiet of our shared dreams, and twisted it all into something selfish and cold. The weight of it all hit me, and I felt the finality of it. Sophie was no longer the girl I had raised. She had crossed a line that I couldn't come back from. She had taken the one thing I thought was ours, and she had used it to create a life that didn't include me. I stood there staring at her, my heart breaking. The truth had finally sunk in. Sophie had lied. She had betrayed me, and there was no going back from that. It's strange how quickly people can forget, how easily they can erase you from their lives once they've moved on to something better, something more glamorous, more desirable. Sophie, my daughter, was no different. She had won the lottery, and with that $10 million, she seemed to vanish into a new version of herself, one I barely recognized. At first, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Sophie, who had once struggled with bills and felt lost in the chaos of her own life, was now posting pictures of herself in a designer dress, standing in front of a mansion that looked nothing like the home we had shared. The house was huge, glass windows, marble floors, and a shiny new luxury car parked in the driveway. It was a life that seemed so far removed from the woman I had raised, a life I had helped build brick by brick. She wasn't just buying things, she was buying status. The posts started to flood her social media, pictures of her at exclusive clubs, holding champagne glasses in the air, tagging people I didn't even recognize. She flaunted her new wealth with abandon, as though the years of struggling together, the years of hardship we had weathered, meant nothing at all. The people in her photos, the ones laughing beside her, the ones cheering for her success, none of them were family. None of them were people who had ever been there for her, who had supported her when she was down. They were just people who validated her new life, her new status. It was as if the Sophie I knew had disappeared. She didn't acknowledge me. She didn't call. I would see her posts and wonder where the girl who used to confide in me went. She was nowhere to be found. She was too busy for me now, too busy enjoying her new life, basking in the luxuries that $10 million could buy. And it wasn't just about the material things, it was about something deeper. She was trying to reinvent herself to escape the life she had shared with me, the struggles that had once defined us both. She had built this new life on the back of my sacrifices, my love, and yet she refused to even acknowledge it. I remember the last time I reached out to her. It had been weeks since the lottery win, and I still hadn't heard from her. I called hoping she would pick up, hoping to hear her voice, to hear some semblance of the girl I had raised. But it went straight to voicemail, just like all the other calls before it. I left a message trying to keep the tone light, trying not to sound desperate. "Hey Sophie, it's Mom. Just checking in. I hope everything's going well. Call me when you get a chance." But there was no call, no message. She had erased me, just like that. I watched as Sophie continued to post pictures of her new life. I saw her with her new boyfriend, the one who had come into her life shortly after the win, a man who seemed to share her newfound sense of entitlement. They went on lavish trips, dined at expensive restaurants, and celebrated every moment of their success. I watched from the sidelines, feeling more and more like a stranger to her. The posts, the photos, the captions, they all screamed one thing: Sophie had moved on. She didn't need me anymore, and that hurt. More than anything, it hurt. I had always been there for her. I had sacrificed everything to make sure she had the best life possible. But in the blink of an eye, it was as though I never existed. She had built a new life, one without me. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't even about the mansion, the clothes, or the expensive vacations. It was about the fact that she had taken everything I had given her every moment every sacrifice, every ounce of love, and she had thrown it all away as soon as she didn't need me anymore. She erased me from her narrative, her story, as though I had never played a part. I was no longer part of her world. I wasn't even a footnote in her new life. But as I sat there staring at her posts, at the life she had created for herself, I knew something deep inside me had changed too. I wasn't going to beg for a place in her life. I wasn't going to chase her anymore. If Sophie couldn't see me for who I truly was, then maybe it was time for me to see her for what she had become, a woman who had forgotten her roots, who had forgotten the person who had supported her every step of the way. I had given everything to her, but I was done. Sophie had chosen her new life, her new people, and that was her choice. But it was time for me to walk away. In the silence that followed, I did what I've always done. When faced with adversity, I held my ground. But this time, I wasn't going to let the pain overwhelm me. I wasn't going to shout or beg for an explanation. Sophie had already made her choice, and it was time for me to make mine. She wanted to cut me out of her life to pretend I didn't exist. Well, I could do that too. But I wasn't going to just sit back and watch everything I had given her slip through my fingers without doing something about it. I had raised her, I had supported her, and I was damn well going to make sure she didn't get away with stealing what was rightfully mine. I may have been silent on the outside, but inside my resolve was growing stronger by the minute. I wasn't going to confront Sophie directly. No, I had learned my lesson there. She had already shown me who she was. Confrontation wouldn't work. It would only give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart, of seeing me beg for something I had every right to. No, this time I was going to be smart. I was going to gather everything I needed to take back what was mine. I started with the small details, the things I could prove. I knew exactly where I had bought the lottery ticket. I had been at the same gas station where we had always gone. I could still remember the clerk's face, the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, and the small, inconsequential decision to buy a lottery ticket that I had made on a whim. Sophie hadn't even cared about the lottery before, so why would she suddenly become the one to win it? I went to the gas station the next day, my mind focused. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I needed to know. When I walked in, the familiar smell of gasoline mixed with the cold air of the convenience store. The clerk, Ben, looked up from behind the counter. "Hey, Emma," he said with a small smile. I gave a tight smile back. "Ben, I need to ask you something. Do you remember me buying a lottery ticket a couple of weeks ago? The one I mentioned to you casually?" He thought for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Yeah, I remember. You said you were going to buy yourself something nice with it. You said, maybe a porch swing, if I remember right. That was all I needed to hear." "Can you check the security footage from that day?" I asked quietly. "I need to know if it shows me buying the ticket. I need proof." Ben didn't ask questions. He nodded and led me to the back room where the small monitor displayed the footage. It was grainy, but there I was standing in line paying for the milk and the lottery ticket. I had always signed my name on the back of the ticket, just a habit, and there it was. My name clear as day in the footage. I felt a rush of relief wash over me. The ticket had never been Sophie's. It had always been mine. I hadn't imagined it. It wasn't some cruel twist of fate. Sophie had taken it, but the evidence was right there in front of me. "I need a copy of this footage," I said, my voice steady. "And I need you to make sure the date and time are noted." Ben hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I can do that for you." I thanked him, feeling my pulse quicken. This was the first step. This was the proof I needed. But I wasn't done yet. I had collected the security footage, but I needed more. I needed receipts, I needed documentation, and I needed everything in place before I could take action. As I walked out of the store, my mind was already planning the next steps. I knew I couldn't just go to Sophie no this time. I had to be methodical. I needed legal proof, and I needed to build my case quietly without giving her any hint of what I was doing. I would wait. I would let her continue her charade, her new life, built on lies and stolen dreams. but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Sophie had made her choice to erase me from her life. Now I was going to make my own choice to reclaim what was rightfully mine. She wanted to discard me. Fine, but I wasn't going to let her keep my future in her hands. I began to gather everything: receipts, photos, the signed ticket from the footage, and contacted a lawyer who had experience with cases like this. Dana, a lawyer referred to me by a neighbor, was calm and precise. She listened carefully to everything I had gathered and assured me that I had a strong case. "We'll move forward with this," Dana said, her voice unwavering. "Once everything is in place, we can initiate the legal process to get the funds frozen, and if we can prove that ticket was yours, Sophie won't be able to keep a dime of it." I nodded, feeling a sense of empowerment that I hadn't felt in a long time. I wasn't going to beg for anything from Sophie anymore. I was taking control of my own future, and I was going to make sure the truth came to light no matter what. The silence I had kept wasn't weakness. It was strategy, and Sophie would learn that the hard way. I had been quiet for so long, watching from the sidelines, letting Sophie build her life without me. But enough was enough. The betrayal was no longer just a wound in my heart. It was an affront to everything I had worked for, everything I had sacrificed for her. She thought she could take what was mine, erase me from her life, and live happily ever after with her stolen winnings. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Once I had all the evidence: receipts, photos, the security footage from the gas station, it was time to act. I reached out to a lawyer, Dana, who came highly recommended by a retired neighbor who had been through something similar. Dana had a no-nonsense attitude, and I could tell right away that she wasn't the type to let anyone slide. I went to Dana's office, carrying everything I had gathered. I placed the folder on her desk, filled with the receipts, my signed ticket, and the security footage of the gas station. Dana didn't speak at first, just flipped through the documents, examining them carefully. I could feel the weight of the moment, the tension in the air. This wasn't just about money, it was about justice, about reclaiming something that was rightfully mine. Finally, Dana looked up. "You've got a strong case, Emma. We'll move forward with this." My heart gave a small, relieved thud. For the first time since Sophie had stolen that ticket, I felt like there was hope. Dana explained the next steps, how we would submit everything to the lottery office, how the claim would be processed, and what legal actions we could take to freeze the payout until the rightful winner was determined. "We'll get the payout frozen," Dana said firmly. "Once the investigation is opened, Sophie's claim won't stand a chance. She won't see a dime of that money until this is sorted out." I nodded, feeling a sense of empowerment settle in my chest. I wasn't going to beg Sophie for anything anymore. I wasn't going to plead for recognition or a place in her life. No, I was going to take back what was mine with my own hands. The next few weeks felt like a blur. I was in and out of meetings with Dana, finalizing the legal paperwork and submitting everything to the lottery office. The process was slow, painstakingly so, but I knew it was moving in the right direction. Sophie didn't know what was coming for her. She continued to post her pictures showing off her new life, living in her mansion, flaunting her wealth without a care in the world. I couldn't bring myself to look at her posts too much, but I knew she was too blinded by her success to realize the consequences of what she had done. Then one day I got the call from Dana. "Emma, I've just spoken to the lottery office. They've officially started the investigation and we've filed a formal claim. The payout is frozen for now while they look into it." The words hit me like a gust of wind. The payout was frozen. Sophie's claim was on hold. For the first time in what felt like forever, the scales of justice were tipping in my favor. Dana continued, "The investigation is going to take time, but this is the right course of action. Sophie won't be able to access the money. We'll make sure she's held accountable." I could feel my breath catch in my throat. This was happening. I wasn't imagining it. The legal system was on my side, and the truth was going to come out. Sophie's life of luxury built on lies and stolen dreams was starting to crumble. It wasn't just the freeze on the payout that gave me relief. It was the knowledge that Sophie could no longer walk around pretending everything was hers. She had built her entire new life on the back of my sacrifices, my love, and my work. She had taken what wasn't hers, and now the world was starting to notice. In the weeks that followed, I watched Sophie's confidence start to waver. The posts slowed down. The pictures of her in her mansion, her new car, the vacations she had been taking, those started to become less frequent. I couldn't help but wonder if she was starting to feel the weight of the situation. Had she realized what she had done? Had she figured out that her little empire was built on sand? It was almost poetic in a way. The same girl who had once relied on me, who had promised we would share everything, was now facing the consequences of her actions. The money, the fame, the validation from strangers, none of it could protect her from the truth. As the investigation progressed, I stayed silent. I didn't need to confront Sophie anymore. The facts were speaking for themselves. All I had to do was wait, knowing that sooner or later the truth would be out in the open. And when it was, Sophie would have to face the reality of what she had done, no longer able to hide behind the facade of a life she hadn't earned. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting back at her. It was about justice. It was about making sure that what had been stolen from me was returned, about reclaiming the part of me that she had tried to erase. The clock was ticking, and when it finally stopped, Sophie would understand what it meant to lose something she didn't even know she had until it was gone. It's almost painful to watch someone build their world on lies, especially when you know the foundation is as fragile as a house of cards. That was Sophie's life now, constructed from the illusion of wealth, supported by her deceit, and flaunted for all the world to see. I watched as she posted picture after picture on social media, showing off her new mansion, new clothes, and new friends. She wanted everyone to see her as the woman who had it all, the woman who had risen from the ashes of struggle into a life of luxury. And she did it all with my money, with the winnings from the lottery tickets she had stolen from me. Each post was a slap in the face, a reminder of how little Sophie valued what I had done for her, how quickly she had erased me from her life once she had what she wanted. She proudly displayed her new possessions, her expensive dinners, and her perfectly curated life as if she had earned it all by herself. She was living in her bubble of success, completely unaware that it was all about to come crashing down. Sophie wasn't the type to think things through. She never considered the consequences of her actions, and now, as she posted selfies from her designer-clad life, she had no idea that the truth was catching up with her. I knew she believed she had gotten away with it, that the money was hers to keep, that no one would question her victory. She was blinded by her own arrogance, too busy reveling in her new identity to notice the cracks forming in her perfect world. But I wasn't going to let her keep pretending. I had spent too long being invisible in her life, watching from the sidelines while she took everything from me. It was time for the world to see who the true winner was. The investigation was ongoing, and Sophie had no idea that the walls were closing in. The freeze on her payout was just the beginning. I didn't rush things. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me flounder. Instead, I waited patient, biding my time, until the right moment arrived. That moment came when Dana called to tell me the news. The lottery office had decided to schedule a press conference. The public needed to know the true winner of the $10 million prize, and it wasn't Sophie. It was me. For a split second, I felt a rush of vindication, of triumph. But more than that, I felt a deep, settled peace. The truth was coming to light, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a victim. I didn't feel like the woman Sophie had discarded and left behind. I felt powerful. I didn't act immediately. I didn't post anything or try to confront Sophie online like she had done to me. No, I wasn't going to stoop to her level. I was going to let the truth speak for itself. Let the press conference be the moment she had to face reality, the moment the world would see the facade she had built. The day of the press conference arrived. It wasn't some grand event, no red carpets or flashing cameras. It was simple, professional, just the way I wanted it. The press gathered in a small room, reporters with their pens ready, all eager to hear the truth. The lottery office had organized the event, and as I walked into the room, I felt a mix of emotions. There was no gloating, no need for theatrics. This was about setting the record straight. I stepped up to the podium, my heart steady, my hands calm. The reporters were hushed, the room silent, except for the soft hum of anticipation. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment I would reclaim what was rightfully mine. I am Emma Markham. I began, my voice clear and unwavering. And I am the true winner of the $10 million lottery prize. The ticket that was claimed by my daughter Sophie was stolen from me. I purchased that ticket and I signed it. All the proof is here. I showed the receipts, the signed ticket, and the security footage from the gas station. I spoke about the bond Sophie and I had shared, how I had raised her, how I had supported her, and how in the end she betrayed me. But I didn't dwell on the pain of it. This was about justice, not vengeance. It was about correcting the narrative. As I finished speaking, the room was filled with a hushed murmur of disbelief. No one had expected this. Sophie's fraudulent claim was no longer her story to tell. The truth had come to light, and there was no escaping it. Later that day, I watched Sophie's world start to unravel. The press conference had aired, and the news had spread quickly. Her social media posts went silent. The pictures she had once shared with such pride now seemed to mock her. Her mansion, her clothes, her new life, all of it was built on a lie, and now everyone knew it. Sophie had no idea what to do. She had been riding high on the wave of her stolen victory, but now that wave had crashed. The people who once admired her, who cheered her on from the sidelines, were starting to ask questions. How had she won? Why had she never mentioned the ticket? And most importantly, why hadn't she checked the name? I didn't care about her social media silence. I didn't care about her panic. I was done. This was no longer about Sophie and her new life. It was about me reclaiming my dignity, my truth, and my place in this world. The fallout was hers to face now, and as I sat quietly watching the consequences unfold, I finally felt a sense of peace. The truth had been told, and that was all that mattered. The moment I walked into the press conference room, I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. The room was filled with reporters, their cameras ready to capture the truth, and I felt oddly calm. I had spent so many years being invisible in Sophie's life, standing in the shadows, holding everything together while she chased after her own dreams. But now here I was, finally standing in the light. The truth was mine to tell, and I wasn't going to back down. Sophie had taken so much from me, the years of love, the years of sacrifice, and it was time to take back what was rightfully mine. I wasn't here for revenge. I was here for justice. I was here to set the record straight. The lottery office had scheduled the press conference, and I knew it would be my moment to present the facts. I had nothing to hide, no shame, no guilt. I had done everything right. Sophie, on the other hand, had built her life on lies, on stolen dreams, and now it was all crumbling down. I walked up to the podium, the eyes of the world on me. The reporters were all watching, their pens poised, ready for whatever I would say next. I could feel their anticipation, but all I could focus on was the weight of the signed lottery ticket in my hands. This was the proof. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Good afternoon, everyone. I began, my voice steady and clear. My name is Emma Markham, and I am the true winner of the $10 million lottery prize. The ticket that has been claimed by my daughter Sophie was stolen from me. I purchased that ticket and I signed it. The evidence is here for all to see. I held up the ticket for everyone to see, showing the signature on the back, the proof that I was the rightful winner. The cameras flashed as they captured the moment, and for a brief moment I felt a surge of vindication. The truth was finally being heard loud and clear. I continued, Sophie has built her life on my sacrifices, my hard work, and my love. She promised we would share everything, that we would enjoy our success together if we ever won. But instead, she took the ticket I had bought and claimed it as her own. She has built a life of luxury on lies, and it is time for the world to know the truth. I could see the reporter scribbling furiously, the room buzzing with questions. But I wasn't done yet. Sophie had made a public spectacle of her life, flaunting her new wealth and success as though it had all been earned. It was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. The room fell silent for a moment as the weight of my words sank in. I could feel the eyes of the reporters on me, waiting for me to say more. But I didn't need to say anything else. The truth had been laid bare. Sophie's carefully constructed world was starting to crumble before her eyes. As I stepped away from the podium, I could already feel the ripples of the truth spreading. The press conference had done what it was meant to do: expose the lies Sophie had built her life on. The press began to ask their questions, and I knew this was only the beginning. Sophie's world was about to fall apart. Outside, the news spread quickly. Social media exploded with reactions. The carefully curated life that Sophie had built on her stolen winnings began to unravel. People who had once praised her for her newfound success were now questioning her every move. The pictures she had posted of her mansion, her luxury vacations, and her expensive designer clothes now seemed hollow and fake. Sophie's followers, once so eager to celebrate her rise to wealth, started to turn on her. They began to dig deeper, asking questions that had never occurred to them before. How had she won the lottery? Why hadn't she mentioned it until now? And most importantly, why had she never once mentioned the name on the ticket? The public humiliation was swift and unforgiving. Sophie's friends, the ones who had cheered her on in her new life, began to distance themselves from her. The admiration she had once basked in now turned to pity, and I could only imagine how it felt for her. The truth was out, and there was no hiding from it. For the first time in a long while, Sophie couldn't control the narrative. She had been in charge for so long, pretending that everything she had was earned, that everything was hers. But now the truth was louder than her lies, and it was echoing in every corner of her newly built world. As I watched it all unfold from the quiet of my home, I didn't feel triumph or bitterness. I felt relief. Relief that the truth was finally out, that Sophie's lies were exposed for all to see. I had no interest in watching her suffer or in seeing her life fall apart. This wasn't about her. This was about me reclaiming my dignity, my truth. And that was enough. The world would now know who the real winner was, and for the first time I could finally stand tall again. Sophie had lost her grasp on the world she thought she had built, and I had regained what was rightfully mine. There are moments in life when the truth hits you like a freight train. You can see it coming from a distance, but no amount of preparation can ever truly soften the blow. That's exactly what happened to Sophie. The press conference had done its job. The world now knew what I had known all along, that Sophie had stolen my winning lottery ticket and built her entire new life on a lie. But what came next for her was something she never could have imagined. At first, Sophie seemed to brush it off. Her social media posts continued as though the fallout was just a temporary inconvenience. But soon cracks began to appear. The things that had once come so easily to her, the luxury, the attention, the endless validation, started to slip away. It was as if her new life was built on sand, and with each passing day, that foundation eroded just a little more. The first sign that things were changing came when Sophie's bank accounts were frozen. It wasn't just one account, it was every single one. Every credit card, every transaction she had made using the winnings from the stolen lottery ticket was now under review. She was blocked from accessing her money, unable to touch any of the funds that she had so greedily claimed as her own. I can only imagine how terrifying it must have been for her to log into her accounts and see the words frozen on every screen. I'm sure at first she thought it was some sort of mistake. She probably thought that the bank had made an error or that it was all part of some temporary glitch. But as the days went on and the reality of the situation set in, I could see how the weight of her actions began to sink in. The assets she had purchased, the mansion, the cars, the designer clothes, were now under review. Investigators were combing through every purchase, every transaction, every credit card receipt. They were going through her entire financial history with a fine-tooth comb trying to trace where every dollar had come from. It was all being questioned. All of it was being scrutinized. The life she had built so quickly, so arrogantly, was now hanging in the balance. Sophie was forced to stop everything. No more luxury vacations, no more extravagant nights out. She could no longer post about her new life on social media because the truth was out and the world had seen it. The people who had once cheered her on now had questions. Sophie, who had never bothered to check the name on the lottery ticket, suddenly found herself in a position where every action, every choice was being scrutinized. Her rise to wealth had been sudden, but her fall from grace was even quicker. As the days passed, Sophie's demeanor changed. Her posts became less frequent, and when they did appear, they were filled with a kind of desperation. The polished images of her lavish life were replaced with thinly veiled attempts to explain herself. "Things are tough right now," she would write. "But I'll get through this. No one knows how hard I've worked for everything I have." I could feel the shift in her tone even from a distance. Sophie wasn't just worried about losing her assets. She was terrified of losing her identity, the version of herself she had created. She had built a life around a lie, and now that lie was falling apart. She was unraveling before my eyes, and yet I remained calm. This wasn't my doing. I had simply stood back waiting for the truth to surface. I had been the one left in the rain, abandoned and humiliated, while Sophie paraded around as if she had earned it all. But now the tables had turned. Now Sophie was the one left in the storm, and it was her turn to face the consequences. And the worst part for her, she didn't even have the decency to acknowledge me. She didn't apologize for her actions. She didn't come to me and admit the truth. Instead, she tried to salvage whatever was left of her image, clinging to the scraps of her broken world. But I wasn't interested in her apologies anymore. I wasn't interested in what she had to say. I watched quietly as Sophie's world came crashing down around her. There was no satisfaction in it for me, no joy in watching her struggle. But I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when Sophie would realize the gravity of her actions. She had thought she could get away with it, but the truth had a way of catching up with people. And now it was her turn to face it. I knew Sophie would never be the same. The girl who once called me her rock, who promised we'd share everything, had become someone unrecognizable. She had chosen money over family greed, over love, and now she had to face the consequences. As she sat there likely staring at her frozen bank accounts, I felt a strange peace settle over me. I wasn't angry, I wasn't bitter. I was finally free from the lie, free from the betrayal, and free from the woman who had once been my daughter. Sophie's realization wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. And when it came, I knew it would be the turning point she could never undo. The truth had finally caught up with her, and it was time for her to face the life she had built on stolen dreams. The days following Sophie's public fallout felt like a quiet victory for me. It wasn't the kind of triumph that came with fanfare or gloating. It wasn't about winning the money back, but about reclaiming something far more valuable, my dignity. The truth had come to light, and in that moment, I realized just how much strength I had found within myself throughout this whole ordeal. For years, I had been silenced, ignored, and taken for granted. I had given everything to Sophie emotionally, financially, and physically, but never once did I stop to ask if my needs were being met. Now, with everything laid bare, I found peace in knowing that I had finally stood up for myself. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't retaliated in anger, but I had quietly held on to the truth. I had walked away from the manipulation and found clarity in the process. It wasn't just about fighting for what was mine. It was about preserving my sense of self and no longer allowing myself to be a shadow in someone else's life. The phone rang one evening, Sophie's name flashing on the screen. I felt a familiar pang of uncertainty, but I answered it. Her voice was frantic, full of desperation. "Mom, I don't know what to do. I'm sorry I made a mistake. Can we fix this? I stayed calm, my voice steady. Sophie, it's too late. You've made your choices and now you have to live with them. I won't be part of that life anymore. And with that, I hung up. There was nothing left to say. I walked away from Sophie that day. No more guilt, no more self-doubt. I had given her everything I had to offer, but now it was my turn to reclaim my life. Sophie would have to face the consequences of her actions while I found peace, and a future where I no longer allowed myself to be invisible. The journey was long, but in the end, I had found freedom. Freedom from the emotional abuse, from the manipulations, and from the toxic hold she had on me. I was finally free.